We're ready now.
All right, we're ready. Madam Clerk, we'll continue with our citizens participation period.
Anthony Bryant,
Thank you, Ryan.
Mohammed Idris,
Evening, Mohammed Idris, City Council, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. There's a flag on the corner of America and Reed. And it's supposed to be the African-American flag or the African flag. And there's no United States of America flag on that corner. And the corner is Reed and America, Reed America. We should not have no foreign flag on public property without the American flag on top of it. It is a sign of treason. Thank you.
Brent Bevel, Karen Buckley. Oh, can you speak into the mic, please?
I was here to speak on the Southwick Avenue item, Southwick Drive item.
This is the time to speak on it.
Okay, thank you. Karen Buckley. I live on Southwick Drive. Nope, short people. It's okay. I just wanted to tell you that I am opposed, and at the planning meeting that we have attended each one, we had 134 people in opposition at the planning zoning meeting, and with over 30 people in attendance. It was not mentioned during the meeting, on the agenda. It was not shown. Nobody had a copy of all of the emails. The Rutledge Avenue item, which had almost exactly the same amount of people, emails, got denied. I mean, flatly denied. So I just wanted to bring up that we also have the same issue, even though we're out on the Johns Island and not in the city. We still count. We're still there. We're still paying our taxes. We're still active members of your community, of our community. This new development on Southwick is a natural wetlands, and they are planning to fill in part of it. And they have embellished and made promises. Last meeting in this room, they spoke of how they were donating to Habitat. I spoke with the director of Habitat, Mr. Rhodes, a few days later. He was made aware just the day before that they were mentioned. So this development company actually stood here and lied to the entire council. They have it in writing now, but they didn't at the time. How can you believe what they say? And according to Mr. Morgan.
Time.
Sorry.
Zach Vicini.
Zach Basidi, 59 Cypress. I'm here once again speaking in support of the release of the 6 previously approved pedicabs. But since it's a lot easier to ignore this tiny issue, I'm going to talk about it as if it were just a general bid. It is truly a privilege and a pleasure for me to be here tonight to witness the state of the city, but also the Ways and Means Committee meeting. I've sat here and I've watched as you've allocated funds 2, 3, 4, 5 times my annual teacher salary like that. But when it comes time to allocate opportunity and provide the middle-class citizens with businesses and opportunities to take part in entrepreneurship, you have kind of dragged your feet. I have come here months and waited. 6 months ago, you told me to wait another 6 months, and I have come and made very reasoned arguments as to why you should follow through on your planned approval. And I'm once again just asking you to think about when you allocate opportunity, Not only are you increasing revenue and encouraging your citizens to participate in entrepreneurship, but you are building up the community and strengthening it from its bottom. So before you just dismiss this as crazy tricycles, think about it as though it is a bid and you are creating an opportunity for your citizens. Move away from this scarcity model
Time.
that limits the pedicabs and just follow through with your own plan. Thank you.
Christine Schaefer. Reese Kimsey.
Reese Kimsey, 20 Lindendale. Good evening, Mayor and City Council, here on behalf of Southwick Drive. I know Julia Copeland had provided you guys with a copy of our MOU with attached agreement referencing Habitat for Humanity. We've got Executive Director John Roden with us here tonight as well. I wanted to go ahead and supplement that. She requested a minor change of a signature block, so I've got that here in person that I can share if she wants to accept that, or how we want to do that. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Tony Daniel, and if you're online, you can press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. Mayor, I heard you talking about neighborhood livability in your State of the City address. Well, how's my livability doing? You know, my father built that house. He has one of the oldest homes in the neighborhood. When we had a meeting, the lawyer told you and the rest of the members that the barricades were only supposed to be temporary. That was 40 years ago. I don't know what temporary is in the book, but it's not 40 years. And if you're allowed to continue this illegal activity and everybody else just looks the other way, what's to stop you from saying, okay, we don't want any ethnic groups in our neighborhood. Everybody, let's take a vote. Now, that's not what the law says. The law says it has to be in the best interest of everyone to close the road, but you're ignoring the law. So why don't we just take a vote and see who we're going to kick out of the neighborhood? Maybe you don't want any minorities in the neighborhood. So let's take a vote. Now, the vote, by the way, does not have to be a majority, because in my example, only 35 families out of the 93 even expressed an opinion, because they're the only ones that are a member of the small civic club that we have. My house is being used as a campaign to get more people as members, under the guise of, if we get enough people saying we don't want the trees down, maybe they'll stay up. I don't know how much longer. It's been 28 months. Traffic studies have been completed that shows the disparity. So if you talk about livability.
Rita Kazurskis, and if you're online, you can press *6 to unmute yourself.
Bias can be deliberate or unconscious. Last week, the guy from the group who Charleston police continued to give permits to, despite beating a black man on tape, decided to hold his weekly event and set up his enormous Dylan Roof flag outside of his permitted area because he found a more convenient parking spot. We've seen Charleston police violently arrest black people and their allies for attempting to move outside of areas designated for them. But for this white supremacist with his Confederate terrorist flag, the Charleston police decided to accommodate him by moving the area to where he decided to park. To everyone listening, please watch the July 29, 2021 emergency meeting the mayor and council held to pass a new First Amendment ordinance. Council did not allow for public comments and explained the urgency was to exclude open carry at Charleston permitted events. The new ordinance requires open carry prohibited signs at all permitted events, signage also required by state law. But after that emergency meeting with no public comments, there were no signs at the weekly Klan rally at the Battery, not the first weekend or second weekend, and not for nearly an entire year. Police who were asked about enforcing this emergency ordinance routinely refused to discuss it and not only walked away, but threatened people with arrests for daring to approach them. It appears the city of Charleston and our police only had a certain type of protesters in mind when they passed that emergency ordinance. As the city continues to turn a blind eye to violations by the Klan, your bias can only be seen as deliberate and conscious. Shame on Charleston. Anyone listening, please leave a recorded message for the council at 843-579-6313.
And those were all the citizens we had signed up to speak. We also received some comments. All of the comments received online and by telephone were sent to the council members in full. This is just a summary of comments provided by those that have not already spoken at the meeting. We received 4 comments by phone against the display of the Confederate flag at White Point Gardens and permits being issued to flags across the South. And those are all the comments we received.
Thank you, Mayor and members council. Josh Dix, I live at 640 Rutledge Avenue. I am actually here speaking on behalf of the French Huguenot Church. This past Friday, we had the burial of Arthur Ravenel. And when I serve on that board, when we were notified on Monday, I reached out to Mayor Tecklenburg and we were able to organize with the police department and livability to make sure we were able to close off the French Quarter for Friday's celebration. There were a lot of moving parts. We had to coordinate with the Dock Street for overflow seating, but I just wanted to say that that entire process worked seamlessly. We were able to have a great event for Mr. Ravenel, and I just wanted to thank the city and everyone who helped in that process. It was a great event on a pretty sad day, but thank you for that. Yes, sir.
Microphone down here. Thank you all for being with us this evening. Appreciate it. All right, next up is our petitions. We have a resolution of support for the extension of I-526. I think it was handed out to you. Frankly, it's very similar to the one we did last year, but given the juncture that the county and the SCDOT are at to try to move forward with the next phase, we thought it would be nice to encourage them along. Can I entertain a motion to
Move for
support?
approval.
Second, any discussion? All in
I'll be
favor, please.
abstaining from the vote.
Councilmember
please.
Parker.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be abstaining from the vote.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it. All right.
So
Nay.
just for the record, we had 2 nays, Councilmember Gregory, Councilmember Seekings, and 1 abstention by Councilmember Parker. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to. explain my-
Councilmember
I'd just
Seekings,
like to
yes.
explain my vote under
Yes.
the rules, please.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor. I went back and looked. In April of 2022, we resolved, it's exactly the same language as we resolved in April of 2022. We've already gotten to that point. I think it's time we move on. In your speech you just gave, you talked about, I wrote it down, the top priorities, and one of which is the citywide water plan. We need resolutions like this to county council. We're going to need help with funding for things like Calhoun West. So let's have a resolution resolving that we're going to do Calhoun West. Let's look forward. I mean, we've already done this. So I think it's time for us to sort of look to some other projects to ask the help of county council for. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was part of my purpose to meet with Chairman Sass this morning to discuss a number of things like affordable housing and transportation as well. So anyway, those conversations will continue. All right, next, council communications, a discussion regarding the possible creation of a grant lobbying ad hoc committee. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you all for entertaining this conversation tonight. I'm really excited about it. When I received, I'll really try not to be long. When I received the lobbying report from Mr. Giroux at the end of the year, that's when it sort of hit me that there's a lot going on that I don't think this body is talking about enough. So obviously I've placed this on the agenda tonight, obviously for discussion, but I would like to move that we create a grant/lobbying committee, whether it be quarterly, meet quarterly in committee. I do understand that the grants go through Ways and Means. So I obviously we can do it there, but I think that we can have a lot of valid, really robust conversation if we meet in committee and discuss possible grants, hearing from our lobbying firm, our lobbyists, hearing from our grant compliance manager, our grant writer. We budgeted for another grant writer. We all have spoke, briefly throughout the past year about how, a grant writer can pay for itself, in the city, for what we can receive. There's money coming, out of the state and at the federal level, that we need to we really need to start targeting. I mean, we talk about all the time, all the infrastructure improvements that we need to get done. I even found out about two, there are two outside of ARPA and the other one, I'm sorry, all the acronyms, but we can go after them. But, our legislators need to hear from us, from this body. That's again, a crucial piece of having these conversations in committee, making sure that the grant writers, the lobbying firms are giving us the information so that we can do what we need to do on our end, which is, our legislators want to hear from us and want us to know what to go after in Columbia and at the federal level. So that being said, I won't keep it going too much. I think you all know where I'm going with this and why I want to create it. So I'm hoping to hear your thoughts and see where we could go with that. Like I said, I do think that an ad hoc committee would be suitable for this. Ways and Means, as we saw tonight, can get pretty heavy. At least I know for me it can. It can get pretty thick and pretty heavy. And I really think that this deserves some robust conversation in committee. I do have, this is still on topic, but a little bit to the side, the state has a surplus year. So budget requests, that was just sort of a off question, but these are sort of things that I think that conversations we should be having. And I think this is the committee that we could be doing it in, because we are, again, we just need to really lean on our reps, our state reps, all of that to try to get, as much as this money funneling through our city as we can. So thank you.
Councilmember Gregory.
Are you suggesting that there are grant opportunities that we may not be aware of, and that through this ad hoc process that we will be able to give our grant writers additional opportunities for grants for the city?
Well, I can't say that there are specific ones that they don't know about, because I don't know what they know about and don't know about. I just want to make sure that those conversations are happening. And I also believe that putting more heads, all of us have different, you hear about Act 236, you bring it here, things like that. So when we get those heads in a room, we're having a more robust discussion about what opportunities are there that they know about. There may be opportunities that we don't know about. I mean, we hire these firms to do some of that work for us, correct? We do have a limited department, I think, when it comes to grant writing. I also think having the committee is a good way to show and prove that this position pays for itself, and that we should budget. Maybe we need to budget for another position, another grant writer, things like that. So to answer your question specifically, I don't, no, not necessarily. I mean, I know the Rural Infrastructure Authority, flood mitigation, stormwater, sewer infrastructure, broadband, all of those, there's a ton of money coming out right now for all of this. And I mean, we just need to, as a legislative body in per se ourselves, really need to target that with our House reps and senators. So.
Any other discussion, Councilmember Seekings?
Just very
and then
briefly.
Shade?
I mean, I think shining a light on opportunity is always a good idea.
Yep.
And this is a way to shine a light on opportunity and put more heads around it and give support to our staff here. And, we collectively know a bunch of people out there too. So, I mean, I think just, again, to shine a light on opportunity and the extent that there's people around this table willing to do that, I think it's a good idea and I support it.
Councilmember Shade?
Councilman Parker, several years ago, a old classmate of mine, a guy fellow named Michael Tongor, appeared in council chambers, and I had not seen Mike in quite some time. And he introduced himself as our lobbyist. And I didn't even know that. And we arranged, we had breakfast the next day at Miller's all day and had a very informative discussion about what he was doing, and I was totally surprised by his involvement with the city. And your points are well taken tonight, which you're bringing up. I don't know if we need to form another ad hoc committee on this. I think probably if we got updates at the ad hoc budget committee, that may be a natural progression to stick it in there. But you're right. Our county council, our state delegation needs more information from us. I'm not sure where we are with this short-term rental bill. I just got a letter from a realtor in yesterday's mail about there's a bill pending or has been pre-filed in the state legislature dealing with prohibiting any municipality from imposing and having on their books a short-term rental ordinance. Now, imagine what that does to our neighborhoods. If we don't have a short-term rental ordinance, and I'm just thinking about the districts, the neighborhoods of my district. If we don't have a short-term rental ordinance, we can't control short-term rentals in neighborhoods. We're talking about the death of neighborhoods in the city of Charleston. I'm not exaggerating that problem. I don't know what our lobbyist is doing about addressing that. I haven't heard anything about it. And I do get Mr. Drew's been very good about sending us updates on what's been taking place up in the legislature from time to time. They just got back in the session, obviously. But you're right. I mean, those are the kind of things that we need to, what's going on with grant writing, with our lobbyists and things of that nature. But I think perhaps we got some infrastructure already in place with that. And maybe we would just redirect it to our ad hoc budget committee. But thanks for bringing it up.
Councilmember Gregg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilman Parker, for bringing us forward. I would like to just say a couple things. One, the world of federal and state grant writing is it's a full-time job. And I don't see that us around this council would be able to bring a whole lot of value to that position. And often those grants are specific to specific departments. So Mr. Fountain might be applying for grants that he specifically knows about. Affordable housing is going to be a separate grant writing exercise, and those folks in those departments with their specific subject matter expertise are very familiar with the grants they should be applying for. So I don't think that the 12 of us, 13 of us, well, excluding you, Mr. Mayor, the 12 of us would bring a whole lot of value to that unless it applies to our specific subject matter expertise. That being said, I would be in favor of at least a regular committee report from our lobbying organizations to find out what they're doing. And by extension, I think for some of us to be able to lobby with our specific state legislatures. I know some of the folks around this table carry a lot more weight with the state legislature than I do, for example. And I think it would be great to employ more heads and more of your seniority, as I'm looking at this end of the table, and help with with our state legislature. So, thank you very much.
So, Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a great idea. Now, what form it should be in certainly should be reporting, and I'll tell you why. In particular for people who are new to council. Again, you talked about the bike pedestrian bridge. There was a Tiger grant that was applied for. We needed to help lobby, if you will, those in the federal government. Councilman Shealy called Tim Scott directly on that. I called Senator Tim Scott directly on that. We needed to also call, because he was in the Senate Finance Committee, we also needed to call Senator Lindsey Graham. I have a rapport with him, but Mayor Riley had a stronger rapport. I actually called Mayor Riley and asked him to call Senator Lindsey Graham. Because we had more than just the executive branch working on that, we were fortunate. We got the $18 million for the bike pedestrian bridge. It was a very divisive issue. It was a 7-6 vote. As a matter of fact, one council member voted by phone to create the 7-6. County council came and actually came and actually said, hey, we're not going to fund it. So we languished. We needed a way across the Ashley. But it was because of the additional allies around the table, and had we not known to make that call, I don't know, maybe we didn't get that money. Certainly if somebody on the Senate Finance Committee doesn't push for it, it's not gonna happen. A second example is we had a $45 million shortfall on the September Clark Spring Fishburne Drainage Project. The STIB had a little over $750 million on the state level. At that point, all the drainage projects that you talked about, West Ashley and James Island, we wouldn't have been able to do those projects because we actually had a vote before council to take almost every dime from stormwater to complete what was a $154 million project that became 199, let's call it 200 million. It's no fault to the mayor, it was just inflation, okay? All due respect, Mr. Mayor, you want to apply for funding to do the low battery wall. We had a mechanism to pay for that. It was council at the 11th hour and staff that actually put forth a proposal to go to the STIB and ask for that 50% grant. $22.5 million was granted. Or all these drainage projects, James Island, Johns Island, West Ashley, would not be done if we didn't get that $22.5 million. And in your own words, you said there are times when I need to listen to council. We had $2 billion that came to the city, came to the state from the stimulus package. To this day, as a council person, I had senators and representatives calling me, what is the city applying for? What is the city applying for? To this moment, I don't know what the city applied for versus what we got. We had other entities in the city that normally would have come through the city. They actually hired their own lobbyists to lobby for money. Some of the nonprofits we support all day long. And they got money. But as of this moment, out of that $2 billion that the state had from stimulus money to give out through the state, was it $4 billion? It was a lot of money. To this moment, I don't know what we got. So we have to find a way, if we're going to apply for something, that we all can push in the same direction on, or we lose out on funding. I can tell you some of the things other municipalities got out of that stimulus package. I don't know how much the city of Charleston got. Now, I'm not asking for it tonight, but it would be good maybe at the next meeting, we got a couple of weeks that we can report on what we applied for and what did we get. We should know that because we certainly can call and we can help. There have been some extra funding that's come from the state to the International African American Museum. That certainly had come through other people around this table. Are calling their representatives. I know you have a strong relationship with the only member of the Ways and Means Committee from the Low Country, Representative Stavanakis. You spoke to his abilities helping in your district a couple of weeks ago, I think. Those relationships matter. And how can we help if we don't know? So what you're asking for, maybe it's not an ad hoc committee. I don't believe it should be through budget ad hoc. That's a wonderful suggestion of yours, Councilman Shade, but boy, that's a lot of work. So I do think it should be something standalone where we get reported on, even if it's quarterly, on something like that. So great idea. Hopefully we can take a great idea, not have a good conversation and get some action steps out of it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to be heard? So if, Councilmember Gregory?
I agree with everything that was just said, but I just want to make it clear. I am not looking for any more work. I'm just being upfront. I'm not looking for any more work, and I depend on staff. That's what they get paid to do. That's what the mayor gets paid to do. And if there's a need to me for any kind of ad hoc